Good Wednesday morning. We have an important tropical update for you on Hurricane Milton. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. This is my colleague, meteorologist Hunter Forst. We're meteorologists at 13 News Now in Norfolk, but we cover the tropics. And Hunter, you've spent time down in Tampa. You've got property down there. Let's talk about Milton. Great concern.
Great concern. Category 4 storm right now. It was a Category 5 earlier this morning, but luckily the winds have come down just a bit, but still a very dangerous storm. What
we're going to be doing with you, if you can spend some time, and I know we've got viewers all over, well, across the globe, really, but certainly down into Florida, a lot of folks checking in remotely. We're going to stay with you live here through the 11 o'clock update. So as soon as we get word from the National Hurricane Service Center, they will update the track. They'll have the current intensity. We'll talk about what's going on. And there are some tornado warnings down in Florida. So a lot for us to break down for you. Let's take a look at what the intensity has done here over the last day or so. You know, as we got in early Monday morning, Hunter, I was watching, and this thing went from a Cat 1 hurricane to a Cat 2, then it jumped up to a Cat 4, then a Cat 5 Monday. It was incredible. Weakened a little bit early this morning, but we saw it ramp back up.
That's exactly right. I mean, this storm was one of the strongest since 2005.
Yeah, since Rita.
So
yeah, incredibly powerful system. And again, it is still a very healthy Category 4 hurricane. Now we're looking at this color enhanced satellite image, and a couple of things that we've seen yesterday. You know, it was a beautiful eye. It collapsed. It reformed. Let's talk about what's happening right now.
Well, now we can see that the eye is kind of collapsing on itself. It's encountering some wind shear, which was expected over the last couple of days. We knew it was expected to weaken as it got closer to the Florida Peninsula, but still a Category 4 storm. It's becoming a little more unorganized, could be also going through an eye wall replacement, which can help. Even though it brings down the winds,
kind
it can still expand
that field.
The wind field.
And it's interesting to note here, you know, again, you mentioned it may be encountering a little bit of shear. That was anticipated when we talked about this yesterday. At one point, the Hurricane Center had it really dropping off to a Cat 3. They've since had it now projected to be a Cat 4 at landfall. At least that was the case with the 5 and 8 o'clock updates. We'll see if anything changes with this 11 o'clock update as it comes in. But it is a current, you know, it's encountering a little bit of shear here, and it does not look as threatening as it did, you know, earlier this morning when that eye was so clearly defined. It is weakening a little bit, but again, it may be a replacement cycle. It's something we'll need to continue to watch. And we are seeing still some deep convection near the center, a sign that it's still holding on. This is still a very, very serious hurricane. Now, out in front of it, you can see a lot of cloud cover. This is some rain actually, you know, kind of stemming up from this a little bit, but a lot of the rain that folks had already seen earlier this morning with a little disturbance kind of out ahead of this.
Right. I mean, Florida is expected, especially north of the storm, like areas like Tampa up towards Lutz, expected to see a ton of rain. So even though some of those areas may not be in the cone, they still have a huge flooding concern.
Yeah, great concern for that. We're talking a foot or more of rain. Some areas, earlier projections were suggesting 15 to maybe even 18 inches. And again, Florida does not handle excessive rain well. We've seen numerous flooding events when they get some of these tropical systems moving through. It's something you really expect.
Right, and Florida this summer has already had an above average last couple of months when it comes to rainfall. So they don't even need anywhere close to the amount of rain they're going to see. I mean, no one does want that amount of rain in one time, but especially since they're already so saturated.
Yeah, the ground can't really handle it. It's a similar situation to what we sometimes experience here in Hampton Roads. If you get a tremendous amount of freshwater rainfall flooding, and then you get any type of surge or tidal increase at all, the runoff from the rain has nowhere to go because the tides are up. A lot of times, you know, it drains off into the ocean or the Gulf. And in this case, again, that water may not have anywhere to go with the surge coming in. So that's a concern. And again, the folks, I think about the Big Bend. Just waylaid by Helene, and there's some concerns for storm surge up that way as well.
Right.
Want to talk about the satellite and the radar images. You see the tornado watch. This is so common with these landfalling tropical systems.
Yeah, every time you have a hurricane or even a tropical storm that makes landfall, you have more wind shear in the atmosphere, which leads to these tornado watches and warnings right now.
And in this case, we do have some warnings. So I wanted to go ahead and show you this live again. We're giving you what is happening right now. 3 different little cells, one of them very tiny right now, but 3 different tornado warnings. So what I want to do, I'll go ahead and put these on and just take a look at what's going on with the warnings. Again, we've got the tornado watch that's in place down there, a tornado warning for Broward County and part of Palm Beach. That one until, well, another 5 minutes or so. We have this one up that looks like it's just west of Belle Glade, and you can see, again, some of the cities there, Clewiston, Harlem, and Lake Harbor. A lot of these smaller communities in South Central Florida, but these folks, you know, they're dealing with the same, maybe thinking, well, hey, this is supposed to be up around Tampa. What are we dealing with here?
Right, exactly. And I just wanted to mention that the tornado warning for Broward County, that one's actually confirmed. Radar confirmed.
Not just radar indicated, but there's actually some video of that one. So maybe we'll go back to that real quick here. I wanted to show that third cell, and look at how little this is. I mean, I think this speaks to us. Let me move the label out of the way here, and we'll take a look and just show you how small this little cell is here. What I'm showing you right now, this is a radar composite. So we've got radar sites from all around Florida. And interesting, you know, sometimes there can be communication issues with a major hurricane. You could have a radar site go down sometimes, usually not destruction to the radar itself, but some of the communication systems around it. So, you know, obviously as things go later this afternoon and into the evening, that can lead to more sometimes frustration, confusion, or even some fear with folks when they're not able to get the information. At this point, we're taking radars from all around Florida, and we're showing you what we call a composite radar. So this is a tiny little cell, but that's all it takes with these. These are short-lived tornadoes.
Short-lived, they pop up quickly, they diminish quickly, and even the same cell, you could have rotation, and then 10 minutes later it's gone, 10 minutes later it's back. So these are storms you just have to continue watching throughout the entire day today, because any one of these little cells that make it onto land has the potential to produce a tornado.
You know, you take a look at this, and we've got this little kink right in here. You see that? That little kind of a hook, an indication there just north of Terrytown there, northwest of Terrytown, maybe heading up towards Shawano, that community there. This is a cell. Again, it doesn't have to be a powerful tornado to do a lot of damage. These are the types that can spin up. They can take down trees, put them onto houses, can destroy property, obviously. It doesn't have to be a massive supercell tornado. These are short-lived, quick spin-up tornadoes. They hit and typically don't last very long.
Right.
So you see that, again, this other cell, closer to some more communities there, Vaughn, again, Clewiston and Whidden Corner. And I'm going to say right now, as we're going through all of this, if you hear me butcher any of the names of these local communities, jump right in, Hunter, because, again, you're very familiar with this area. So looking now up a little farther along the coast, Sarasota, Port Charlotte, starting to see some rain. They've already had periods of rain in Tampa. I know you've been in contact with friends down there. Anybody saying anything about what they've already seen?
Well, I've heard a few people just saying that it's been just super rainy the last couple of days, because even before the storm came ashore, they were already seeing torrential downpours. And this is just going to be exacerbated by the Hurricane Milton right now. I haven't heard much in terms of winds for areas in Tampa or Sarasota from my friends, but some of them are right in Sarasota, so they're going to be seeing the worst of it in just a couple of hours.
We take a look here. I wanted to show you this tornado watch is in place until 9 o'clock. Now, you can imagine as we go and this gets closer, they're going to extend the watches, and they're going to extend them northward as well, so that North and Central Florida will also be included. It looks like we're getting an update to this one cell down here, this blinking light. So let's go ahead and zoom into this. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, see what's going on with this new warning. This is until 11 o'clock again. Clewiston, Harlem Glades, Hendry, Palm Palm Beach counties there, but the cities around Clewiston and Harlem in Florida under that tornado warning. And this update just coming in, I'll read it. Tornado warning remains in effect until 11. A confirmed tornado. So this is confirmed. All right, not just a radar indicated, but a confirmed tornado was located 9 miles southeast of Montura, moving north at 30 miles per hour, damaging tornado. And again, folks down there just to the north, and we can take a little closer look. We'll zoom in to that one. Here's our cell, and this was the area, again, we had identified a little earlier, but for Vaughn and Clewiston, obviously folks here need to pay close attention. Again, a little hook there indicated just north of Terrytown, but this is another one confirmed for this area, and these folks down in Florida obviously preparing to deal with that. All right, the center of this thing, we'll take a look at how far it is from Tampa, and one of the things that becomes a benefit in terms of tracking and really passing along information, when it gets within the radar's range of the coast, we can start getting frequent updates. We've seen that coming in. So we're going to give you the latest on this. We've got a 10 o'clock update. We'll show you that. Notice the center of circulation there, about 180 miles from the mouth, maybe say 170, 175 miles southwest of the mouth of Tampa Bay. So that's still a distance off. We were looking at the movement, and it looks like the center is actually going to come ashore probably late evening or maybe even after midnight.
Right.
But obviously, major impacts felt well before that.
Major impacts from Naples all the way through Fort Myers into Sarasota. And this storm, where it makes landfall, is just so crucial because if it goes 5 miles to the south of Tampa, Tampa's spared the worst of the storm surge compared to if it made landfall 5 miles north of the city.
Yeah, really big difference, subtle changes. When Hampton Roads, and we talk about this being the home market here in Norfolk, even though we're covering this down here, I've been here since '97, been covering hurricanes and tropical systems for almost 30 years. You could see we've had some really pretty nasty hits around here. Isabel, had that just been a slight shift in the direction of approach, Norfolk and Virginia Beach would have been completely underwater. It came in down around Ocracoke and we were spared. Similar situation here with Tampa. You know, if this thing shifts a little farther to the south, it will have different impacts. It's still going to be a bad hit across the entire central Florida area, but the subtle changes, whether it's Sarasota, whether it's Tampa, whether it's a little farther north, could have some significant impacts to the local areas.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. So right now with the 10 a.m. update, and we are just moments away. A lot of times we get these 11 o'clock updates coming in a little bit earlier. We're going to share it with you as we get it live. We're going to be right here with you. Here's a 10 o'clock update. You can see those winds projected still to be around 130 miles per hour at landfall. At the 10 a.m. update, maximum winds 155 miles per hour. Now, the way they determine those maximum sustained winds, we look at a 1-minute wind speed averaged, okay, at a height of about 10 meters, okay, or around 33 feet or so. So that's what we're looking at when you talk about the maximum sustained winds. That doesn't mean that it's all around the system. It's not. That means somewhere within this system, within Milton's reach, there are winds that are believed to average 155 miles per hour, and not just a gust. We're talking about a sustained average for a minute. So super powerful gusts. 10-second gust up to 195, and that is just mind-blowing. What stands against that? You know, not much.
Exactly.
So as it comes in, again, expected around 130 mile per hour winds. It weakens as it crosses over the land, has friction with the earth, and loses that warm sea surface, which is its fuel. It crosses out and kind of gets absorbed along a frontal boundary. All right, we're going to take a look at the warnings that are in place. And again, Central Florida, Tampa, Orlando, all the way up just south of Jacksonville.
Exactly. And even on the East Coast, they still have to worry about storm surge as well. It's not just a West Coast issue. It's also an East Coast issue because once the storm goes off the East Coast, they're going to have that east wind pushing the flow
back towards it.
So not only the West Coast has to worry about storm surge and flooding. It's not going to be as bad on the East Coast, but they still have that chance.
West Palm down through Miami and down towards the Keys, you have a tropical storm warning. We've already seen tornado warnings down there. So this is a serious situation, even for areas not under the hurricane warning. For the Big Bend, areas north Jacksonville, tropical storm warning. I know Floridians are tough. I know they deal with these types of things, but this is going to be a bad storm, obviously, for the region. We'll take a look here, and I want to get into some of the threats, and we're going to take a look at this just a little bit. And again, we don't want to, have anybody even for a moment drop their guard with this system in any way, but just a little bit of encouragement, Hunter, in that the projection for the storm surge into Tampa Bay with maybe that slightly southerly track, we took it down from over 12 feet to up to about 12 feet.
Right, and that just makes the biggest difference for a place like Tampa because the city is so prone to storm surge because of the bay. All the water just gets squeezed in between these two areas of land. Water gets pushed up. It has nowhere else to go besides up and into the city. That's why this storm, we haven't seen a landfall like this, if it was to make landfall to the north of Tampa, in over 100 years. And that's why people were so nervous about this, because no one alive has ever seen something like that.
Yeah, first in the lifetime. And that's one of the things that the local emergency managers and, again, the city managers are really stressing. Don't think, oh, we've been through this before, not a big deal. The reality is for Tampa and for a lot of these communities here, you haven't. So if you're watching us right now from Florida, cannot stress this enough. I know it sounds so basic. Listen to your local emergency managers. They had evacuation orders for 5.5 million people asked to evacuate. Many folks did. There were issues getting out. Folks were able to get out of some of these areas. Some folks have stayed, as you know, and they're like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll rough it out. It's not just the hit coming tonight, but it's the impacts following this. As folks in the southeast U.S. and up into North Carolina know, okay, you can survive the wind, you can survive the rain, the threat of tornadoes, as bad as all of it is, and it's bad. It's dealing with life for the next couple of weeks, maybe in some cases longer than that, without basic utilities like electricity and water, some of those things. So that's going to be a big concern. All right, as you can see, again, you mentioned the backside of this. There is some potential for storm surge, maybe up to 6 feet or so by some of the models between Daytona up to Jacksonville.
Yeah, even for the James River, I believe, this is
near Jacksonville.
This goes all the way inland. So the water is going to be pushed into the river and expand down towards inland area. So even if you live not close to the beach, you could still be affected by that storm surge because of that river.
And we have the tropical storm watches, for the record, extend all the way up. So there's concern even up through Savannah and up towards Charleston, some of those areas that the water levels are going to be high on the backside. All right, we're going to get into the models. I'm going to show you the latest on how things should play out with this in just a moment. But before I do, let's take a peek and see if that 11 o'clock came in early. And it has not yet. Still looking at the 10 a.m. So again, we're within 8 minutes of 11 o'clock. Sometimes the Hurricane Center puts these out a little early, and I was thinking maybe we'll have a chance to show you that. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch up. I'm going to go over to what we call the Mon wall and talk a little bit about this futurecast. Now, this is something that I modified here, and we'll just take a look at this. And again, Hunter's off camera. It's okay. Why don't we see if that 11 o'clock comes in? Hunter, if it does come in, if you can check that with one of the computers, just grab me and let me know, and we'll go straight to it, okay?
Yep.
Here's what the latest model was showing, and I've combined two different models here, okay? We can show any number of models, but what I did was I took the HRRR model, the high-resolution rapid refresh model, for this depicted precipitation. This is a model that updates frequently, every hour. High-resolution rapid refresh, because it does update so frequently. And you can see how it was keying on some of those cells. Remember, we've had a few tornado warnings down here in South Florida already, so it's already kind of depicting that. The bulk of the moisture is still offshore. I have the wind field that I've pulled from the GFS. That's the Global Forecast System, and that's the American kind of global model here that's been looking. Some of the other models were really speeding up the arrival of this, bringing it in during the early to middle part of the evening. That seemed a little bit fast based on where the system is and how it's progressing, and with what the National Hurricane Center is saying. staying. So as we go forward, we're going to take a look at this. No doubt conditions are going to deteriorate this afternoon. The rainfall is going to intensify along the Gulf Coast, the central Gulf Coast of Florida. And you could see some very heavy rain. Again, flooding, runoff a concern. But also within these cells this afternoon, there could be numerous tornadoes. I think we will see it. There's so much energy with this as it gets a little closer. Heading into the late afternoon and evening, again, heavy pockets of rain, winds coming up. These south-facing areas really concerned with storm surge. There's a mound of water here that is kind of building, and the waves, as they start to increase, coming into the Florida coastline, that water level will build and build and build and build. It's not just a wall of water, but it's going to be a building of the tides and the water levels coming in. Again, you can see some of that heavier rain still wrapping back out closer to the center, but this thing is going to come in. And as we get into the evening, look at these heavy areas of rain reaching up towards Orlando. We talk about Disney. You know, Disney never seems to shut down, and some of these hurricanes have prompted them to take steps, obviously, to protect their guests, to protect their parks. And again, I know they quit taking reservations and said, hey, let's let Milton come through and then we'll resume everything, get everything going again. So the system makes its approach as we go into the evening. And again, you see that center getting closer and closer. By late evening and into the early morning hours, that's when it is likely that that center will come ashore. Again, very heavy rain, flooding rain potentially across north and central portions of Florida. All these little isolated cells that you see here capable of producing spin-up tornadoes, and a lot of energy within these heavier cells as well. So that's a look at one of our models. I just wanted to share that. Now, this is a look at the European model, and it's, again, a global model, a broader view, but you can see how the center comes in. Here's Tampa right there. It basically comes in. The Euro brings it in over Tampa. That's one of the solutions. Show you the GFS, and again, this is the full GFS model showing you, again, I was looking at the winds before, but you'll notice the GFS is now tracking just a little bit south of Tampa Bay, and that is, again, the model that has been outperforming, I think, more recently, the European. All right, I just got thumbs up from Hunter. We have the 11 o'clock in, so I'm going to step out of this and I'm going to go back over. Hunter, let's take a look at it. If we go ahead and click right up there, we'll get a look at the 11 o'clock and do this together with the new information. So, okay. This is how raw this is right now. We don't even have time yet to get all of the little labels placed out, all right? So we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's switch positions because I want to modify this. And Hunter, let's talk about what we've seen. You notice the winds.
So good, yes. So good news, if there is good news in this situation. Sure. The winds have come down about 10 miles per hour. So now they're at 145 miles per hour. The pressure has also gone up from 919 millibars to 931, and you want to see that pressure rising because that means the storm is weakening, and when the pressure rises, those wind speeds start to go down. So we are trending in a good direction as it gets closer to land. But the gusts are still very high, up to 175 miles per hour, and it's moving a bit quicker as well at about 17 miles per hour. Earlier this morning, it was about 14, then it got up to 16 miles per hour. Now it's moving at about 17 miles per hour, 160 miles to the west-southwest of Fort Myers. So all right, it's certainly getting close.
And what we're doing right now, I'm resetting the computer to get us so we can break it down even more, like by 12-hour increments. I want to see what it's looking like, the computer locked up. So if our director can take max 3, I don't know if they can do this on the fly, how quick, there it is. All right, we can talk some more about this. We're still looking at a very healthy system. You can talk a little bit about what's going on the west side of that while I reload this.
So you could see that earlier this morning, you had a very well-defined eye. You had that yesterday as well. But now it's starting to get a little bit more unorganized, but it is still packing a major punch as it gets closer to areas like Sarasota, Venice, down towards Fort Myers. And the thing is, even though that this storm is weakening and the winds are coming down, the storm surge is already going to be high, even though the winds are coming down, because you had those Category 5 winds, which has already been pushing the water closer and closer to shore. So even though those winds are coming down, the storm surge is still going to pack that high-end Cat 4, Cat 5 storm surge.
I think it's important to note too, Hunter, and you're speaking to that right now, what's going on with the storm surge and this incredible influx of water here, it's already in motion. Right. So even if this thing were to die down, I mean, the destructive winds coming across Florida might not be as bad. But again, a lot of this water is already kind of surging in that direction. So that's a great point. I wanted to show you, and I'm just adding this right now because we do have this updated track. Here we go with the updated Hurricane Milton track. It looks like the Hurricane Center may be backing it down just a little bit. I'm going to jog it forward slowly. I put in the 12-hour update. Look at that. A little bit more encouragement. Keep in mind, just sitting there thinking about it, I almost got like the chills because I was concerned. Yesterday it was down to a Cat 3 before landfall with some of that shear that I think we're seeing a little bit of that now. But this morning, it was back up to a Cat 4 at landfall and winds of 130 miles per hour or higher, okay? You can see right now the 8 p.m. update showing the forecast from the Hurricane Center that dropping down to a 3. That's a bit of encouragement. Yeah. Still a major hurricane, right. Still nothing to just disregard or not have respect for in any way, but you can see how that is a little bit of encouragement. The other thing, and we always tell folks, you don't want to be just consumed with the center of the cone, but it now does appear the Hurricane Center is trending more towards that GFS model we were looking at, Hunter. So that's a little farther to the south. Maybe some more good news for Tampa as far as sparing that area a direct hit. But what's good for Tampa may be a harder hit for Sarasota or some of the areas down to the south. Let's talk about some of these communities.
Right. I mean, you have Fort Myers, which was hit by Hurricane Ian 2 years ago, and some people are still trying to recover. It takes a long time when a major storm hits your area like that, and they're unfortunately going to end up seeing some pretty major storm surge as we go through the next day or so. And this storm is just going to pack a punch really for a lot of areas that were affected by that major storm a couple years ago. Luckily, again, it's supposed to weaken as it gets closer to land, but that storm surge is still going to be astronomical. And I just want to point out also, you notice how areas like Miami and where those tornado warnings are not included. They're not in the cone. So like we were saying before, even though if you're not in the cone, you can still be majorly affected by the hurricane.
Tremendous amounts of rain all across much of Florida, but especially those areas central and north. But down here, they've already had tornado warnings, and there will be more as this comes in. So they've got that tornado watch through the afternoon. I believe it was until 9 o'clock tonight. There will be additional watches posted a little farther to the north as this comes in. This area, the right front side, you hear folks talk about the dirty side or the most powerful side. Keep in mind, as this thing's spinning along, it's got this forward motion now at 17 miles per hour. And I want to talk a little bit about that forward speed and why it's a little bit encouraging. If this thing accelerates a bit, that would be good too. And I will explain why. But it's moving along. So on this side, you take the maximum winds and you add that 17 miles per hour forward and you subtract it on the back side. You know, so obviously as it's moving this way, it's going to be that side on the right side that gets the acceleration from the winds plus that forward motion. That's why this is such a concern. And there's right now that tornado watch is posted there. So very interesting to see that. Now, about the forward speed, there is a rule of thumb, just a rule of thumb, okay? It's not absolutely etched in stone, but it's something I've always held on to throughout my long time of forecasting. I started back in '89. But anyway, one of the things you can do, just as a rule of thumb for estimating rainfall from a tropical system, it's not always, but in general, it works pretty good. You take the number 100, you divide it by the forward speed, and that gives you just a rough estimate of how much rain you could expect to get from a system. So let's do some quick math here, okay? You have a storm moving along 10 miles per hour. 100 divided by 10 is?
10.
10. So you'd say, okay, moving along 10 miles per hour, 10 inches of rain as it comes through, okay? If that storm slows down to 5 miles per hour, if it stalls out, 100 divided by 5? 20 inches of rain.
Math
yes,
minor.
You've got the math. So, this moving along at 17 as it picks up speed. The point is, the faster it moves, if it were to pick up to say 25 or 20 or 25 miles per hour, that would reduce the amount of rain. In theory, maybe another 4 or 5 inches of rain, which is way better than 10 or 20. Now, keep in mind, there's already been a lot of rain, so those totals that we see will be higher than that. But the bottom line is the faster this moves, the better it is for Florida. So this is a look at our latest on Milton with the actual hurricane track. I want to get back to taking a live look, Hunter. We're still good on time, so we're going to keep rolling. Hopefully you are enjoying this information. If you have interest in Florida, again, I will stress you have to be weather aware. Cannot stress that enough.
I just want to mention, it looks like on the latest advisory with the updated track that it's coming in a little bit earlier.
Okay. So what time is the arrival time on that?
It was the line looked like it was just off the coast at about 8 o'clock this evening.
Okay.
So I think the last advisory, the 5 a.m., it was around 2 a.m., right? So
maybe more like closer to midnight or even late evening.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay, so good to note that. We'll take a look here again. 3 different tornado warnings that are issued. And again, this is not too far from Fort Lauderdale, off to the northwest, just south of Belle Glade. And you can see around Moorhaven. And again, these cells, very isolated, but each one of them, you can see a little indentation or a little hook indicating a potential rotation. And as you were mentioning, these are confirmed. I mean, we're not just looking at radar indicated, but in a couple cases, we've had actual video or actually had, law enforcement or trained spotters saying it's down. This is what's happened.
And that's why you have to pay more attention to these types of tornado warnings, because now they have history of producing these tornadoes. They're not just radar indicated where the radar is seeing rotation, within the atmosphere. These tornadoes have actually been on the ground. So that's why if you do end up having a tornado warning, you have to take immediate action as quickly as you can, because obviously these cells have been able to produce these tornadoes. So definitely a threat that you have to be aware of throughout the day today.
I wanted to share this, just taking a look here. Okay, so we have 17-mile advance, okay? It's moving along at about 17 miles per hour, the center. And you can see that, well, look, it just moved right there. So anyway, roughly 145 to 150 miles off the coast, the center of circulation from Tampa and Sarasota. So you take a look and say, okay, 17 times 10, 170. Well, 10 hours from now, what are we looking at? We're looking at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
This is a much faster arrival than what previously was the thinking. So the fact that this is accelerating, again, in some small way for folks along the coast, a little bit of maybe a benefit of not having it in the dead of night, when
right.
It comes through at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and nobody can see anything, and everybody's emotionally fried because they've been worrying about this.
Right.
It would be better if it were to come in sooner and get out sooner. So again, it is moving, but it's appearing now that the center is actually getting a little closer, and it may come through late evening. So interesting to note that. And that's one of the things that our graph model was showing. Let me go ahead and put the graph back up there. Again, another one of our models. And we are doing this all on the fly. Again, my name is Craig Moeller. I'm a meteorologist here at 13 News Now in Norfolk. We're a Tegna station, and we have a sister station down in Tampa. Hunter Force, my colleague, you've spent time down in Tampa, a number of years down there, and you actually have property.
I do. I graduated from the University of Tampa in 2018. I lived there after I graduated for a couple of years. I loved the area, so I ended up buying a place downtown, not knowing I would go back to school to become a meteorologist. And now I'm here in Hampton Roads, which I love. But again, I have so many friends in the Tampa area. Some of them have stayed. Some of them are in St. Pete, Sarasota. My grandparents, they have a house in Venice. which is supposed to not see the best type of situation. Ever since the storm started to move down towards the south, areas like Venice, their storm surge and their wind speeds have pretty much gone up significantly.
So again, where one area benefits a little bit, other areas are hit harder.
Right.
This is the graph model, okay? And this is a model that we use. It's higher resolution, and it's really pretty good. You can see how the graph model is bringing this in. There's the center getting closer to Tampa and Sarasota here. I've got the winds and the kind of future cast depicted rainfall kind of wrapping in closer Tampa and Sarasota. This is by 5:30, and you could see this maybe coming in per the graph model, as you can see, around 8:30, maybe right there, say 9 o'clock or so. Again, it has it coming. This one still has it pretty much over Tampa, but the timing on this may be lining up a little bit better than, say, the HUR or the GFS, that global model. And a lot of times the high-res models do a better job. Now, it's interesting to note, you can see there are some breaks in the precipitation. In this case, this model has a lot of that heavier stuff wrapping around. I will say it is really, really difficult for these models to, clearly depict, if this community is going to have a little bit more than that. The main thing that we're picking up here is the heavier rain coming in and when it's going to start to, break up or when the backside should clear. The other thing is I think you get a pretty good feel for the nature of the system and how it's developing and moving along with some of these models, if there's more rain filling in or whether it's starting to fade. So again, in this case, Hunter, it is right over the bay, but this is just one model.
Before, this model was trending a little bit further to the south, but again, these are updating constantly. So this is just one model run, and that's why you can't just take one model run and go with it. You have to look at every single one, every single update, see what the trends are. And just because one moved one way doesn't necessarily mean that's how the trend is going to be.
You see with this model, again, it brings that heavy rain just north of Orlando, brings that center really over Orlando. So, this is another area that could be hit very hard. It won't be a Category 3, I don't think, at that point, but it could be still a healthy Category 1 or even a weak 2.
Right.
It will weaken as it spends time over land, but because it's moving so quickly, it may hold on to a lot of its strength. That's the one downside. While the rain is in and out, it may have some of those hurricane force winds extending a little farther inland. So that is a concern as well. I just wanted to show you that latest graph model, another one of our resources. And I can tell you, for folks that may be worrying about this system, if you are watching from parts of the southeast, you were just hit hard with Helene, say in parts of Georgia or South Carolina, I can tell you that we've got this old frontal boundary that is really kind of confining the worst of Milton down to the south. So that's what's going to protect some of these areas that were hit so hard. There may still be a few showers kind of on the northern edge and maybe a little bit of wind. We talked about the surge coming up a little bit on the backside as those winds are pushing water back towards the Atlantic coast of Florida. But as far as like that rain reaching up into these areas, very, very unlikely with that frontal boundary interacting. Eventually, it becomes post-tropical. So it kind of shoots off to the east. So Hunter, again, as a homeowner in Tampa, somebody who is directly under the gun, I know there were some times earlier this morning that you were understandably very uncomfortable with what we were seeing. Tell me your feelings now. As a meteorologist, as a forecaster, still great concern, obviously, but how are you feeling right now?
I would say when I woke up this morning, it was very gut-wrenching. Seeing the trends of it going further south started to make me feel a little bit better, but like I was saying earlier, it's a lose-lose situation for everybody. I have friends up and down the coast, family up and down the coast. So just because it works out better for one city, it's going to become even worse for another. So it's a terrible situation. But there was numbers going around where if the storm surge went into Tampa Bay like they were expecting, the number of homes that would be affected just in that area was about 250,000. So just an insane amount of people would be, and that's 250,000 of extreme flooding, not just a little bit of flooding, but feet of water in your house.
Then you think about all the other areas impacted with not only the winds, but tornadoes and the flooding rains as well. Here's what you need to take away from this update. Again, while there's just a little bit more, I guess, positive news from what we were getting earlier this morning from the Hurricane Center, this is still an incredibly dangerous storm. This is something that is going to be a major hurricane when it makes landfall, and there are going to be hardships for people all along the Central Florida coast and really across Central Florida, period, but especially the Gulf Coast. So this is nothing to be dismissive with at all. All right. It is important that you continue to check back with a trusted weather source. We'd love for you to continue to watch 13 News Now. We'll be working throughout the afternoon. Hunter, I've appreciated having you in this morning, again, helping through our live on-air coverage and digital coverage. But Tim Pandagis, our chief, and Evan Stewart and Taylor Stephenson are going to be working through the afternoon and evening. We're going to be back tomorrow morning. Pre-sunrise, we'll be doing updates and keeping you posted online on all of the 13 News Now digital platforms as well as we continue to track it by 8 a.m. Likely the center is still moving over Florida, maybe getting ready to cross back out into the Atlantic, but there is going to be a lot to cover in the next 18 hours or so as the center of Milton cuts across Florida. So for everybody watching, again, or if you know someone down there in Florida, maybe you've got loved ones or friends, some family down there, make sure they listen to emergency management. Do not take this one lightly. Do not be dismissive on any level with this. I've reached out to my nieces. I've got a couple nieces there. We want everybody to really take this seriously and do stay weather aware. Check back frequently. One other quick note, Hunter. We have a tremendous resource available at 13newsnow.com. 13newsnow.com. You go under the Weather Center into our Hurricane Center, and there's a hurricane guide. Now, there's a lot of local contact information for Hampton Roads in Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, but there's stuff for everybody. We're not under threat right now in Hampton Roads, but if you know somebody down in Florida and you direct them to those resources, you can see some different tools there that can help you deal with some of the hardships that are coming with this system. So this is how things are looking right now. Again, Hunter, maybe a little bit of encouraging news since the earlier morning updates, but still, this is a monster to deal with. Already tornado warnings in Florida, and we'll be seeing more. Any last thoughts on this?
I just want to say this is the third hurricane to make landfall in Florida just in this season.
It's incredible.
I mean, they've had enough. I mean, one is enough, but three in one season is just terrible.
It is rough, guys, and we just want everybody to be safe. So again, we'll continue to watch us. More updates for you throughout the day on 13 News Now and right here on this digital platform and all of our outlets. Be sure and check back with us for updates. Stay safe.